Hey guys! Thanks for joining my video today. I'm going to be talking about my illustration titled Autumn. I'm mostly going to be talking about the thought process behind the drawing versus the actual process of drawing it. I was initially going to do a tutorial voiceover where I explained exactly what I was doing during the time lapse, but it just didn't really work out, so I decided to take a different approach, and I hope you still get something out of this video. Before I dive right into the ideas behind this illustration, I do want to give you a little bit of background on the process of creating it. I used Prismacolor Colored Pencils for this drawing, and I'll list the actual colors in the description. I wanted this drawing to be a really quick drawing. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. My paintings tend to take quite a while, and so it's really helpful for me if I can create something and finish it relatively quickly, in between, so that I feel like I'm accomplishing something. It did take a little bit longer than I had initially planned, and it ended up with some problems because I was going so quickly, but overall I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Aside from wanting to create something that I could finish quickly, I also wanted to create something to give back to all of you guys that follow me and support my artwork and my art journey. I tossed around a lot of different ideas on what that could be, and I decided to go with a downloadable calendar. I don't know if it's really a good idea or not. I guess we'll find out. If you guys have any suggestions of what you would like, as like a free download or something like that, please let me know. I'd love to try some different things. So once I had decided on a calendar that you guys could download and use as a desktop for your computer or even print, I decided to think more about the actual drawing. Now I knew I was going to be doing it for the month of November, and I know it's a little bit late, we're already a week into November, but it's also a little bit too early for December's. So I started thinking about the weather outside and the season of autumn and all the things that kind of go into that. One of the biggest things that came to mind is autumn leaves. Now where I live there are tons and tons of maple trees just everywhere. And maple leaves are just so pretty in autumn time, all the different colors and their shapes and everything like that. So initially I was wanting to do maple leaves for this drawing, but maple leaves are a little bit complex in their shape. And since I did want this to be a pretty quick drawing, I decided to go with a simpler shaped leaf. I also knew that I wanted to include a portrait. I really enjoy drawing faces, and they're hard to do. They're complex, and so I feel challenged doing faces, and I feel like I learn more and grow more when I do people. But I didn't want it to be just like a portrait with a bunch of leaves around it with no story behind it. And I don't know if the story really came through or not. I know what the story is behind it, so I feel like it does have a story, but I don't know if it comes through to you guys, so definitely let me know what you think on that front. I wanted it to feel like she was part of autumn, like she was the embodiment or the personification of the season of autumn. So in other words, she's more than just surrounded by autumn, she's kind of submerged in it. I wanted it to feel like the viewer is almost looking into another world through this flurry of leaves. Another world where autumn and other abstract ideas like that are personified, and you see autumn staring right back at you. And I really wanted it to feel like you're just glimpsing into the world, like it's going to disappear. You know in movies when you get a close-up of somebody's face and it's really intense, and then something comes right in between the camera and the person that's staring back, and suddenly they're gone. That's kind of the feeling I wanted to have. You're seeing this right before she's just going to disappear. The two biggest things I did to create this effect are going to be the color choices and the composition. Now the color choices, I like to use kind of strange colors for my skin tones and things like that to give my pieces a really ethereal look, which I feel like gives it that feeling that you're glimpsing into another world. Now the composition is basically just that she's surrounded by these leaves and is almost disembodied by them. Another thing I did to try and make it feel like she was the personification of autumn was around the neckline and on some of the leaves I added some white details, which you'll see here in a minute. And these details I wanted to look like frost. Now I don't know if they really did end up looking like frost or just white lace details, but that was the idea behind it, and I think it turned out pretty good looking even if it doesn't actually read as frost. I probably could have gotten it to look a lot more like frost if I had spent more time on it, but as I was saying, this was a really quick drawing, so I didn't want to spend forever trying to get her neckline to look like it was frosted over. There ended up being a few other problems since I went so quickly on this, besides just the neckline not looking like frost. One of the biggest things is that as I was adding the black background, I forgot about her shoulders and her ears and hair, and I just filled in everything black. And now if I was doing a painting, I could have gone back through with some really dark purple and filled it in so that you get a hint of there being shoulders and ears there. But colored pencil, you can't really draw over black colored pencil very easily, so it ended up being that she just doesn't have shoulders, which kind of plays into the disembodiment thing that I was talking about earlier, but it still kind of looks a little bit funny if you notice that her shoulders aren't there. Another thing that kind of ended up being a problem since I was going so fast is the composition of the leaves. Normally when I'm working on a piece, I actually spend a lot of time stepping back from the illustration and looking at it and noticing things that don't look right or don't flow right. And with this one, I didn't do that very much. I went straight from the sketch right onto the color without spending too much time looking for those kind of things. So the composition of the leaves, the biggest problem, if you look on the left-hand side, there's 3 leaves that are a similar size that are all pointing the same direction. And that's really not very good composition. Overall, I am really happy with how it turned out, especially for the limited amount of time that I did spend on it. So I hope you guys enjoy it as well. Now for the actual calendar, I used Illustrator to combine the illustration and the month and the days. Next time, when I do December's, I'm going to make sure to leave some kind of negative space in my illustration so that the actual calendar can be more embedded into the illustration instead of kind of having the illustration floating on the side with the lettering, you know, almost separate from it. For the calendar download, I did create several different size options. For the computer desktop version, they range all the way from 600 by 800 to 1200 by 1920, and for the printable ones, they start at 8.5 by 11, and I did do a 5 by 7 version as well. You can find that download on my website. You just got to submit your email, and you'll get an email with the link to the download. I won't be spamming your email, so don't worry about that. I hate spam email too. I will send you an email once or twice a month with more free downloads and some links to videos that I've created throughout the month. And if you're not interested in any further free downloads, don't worry about that. Just unsubscribe once you get your download, and that's just fine. Goodbye everyone, and thanks so much again for tuning into my first voiceover time-lapse video.